Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for taking some time out of your busy schedules to join us for this webinar. My name is Brad Prather. I work with DWD Technology Group. We are a Sage 100 partner located in Indiana. We provide Sage 100 support services to companies throughout the Midwest, and we're always trying to find ways for Sage 100 users to become more efficient and get the most out of their software system. Today, our friends at DSD Business Systems will be showing us how to better control and keep track of inventory with the multi-bin solution. A couple of housekeeping notes here before we get started. On your control panel in the GoToWebinar, everybody is currently on mute and will be on mute throughout the presentation. However, if you would like to ask a question, just either go to the attendees section and you should see a box that's got a hand. You can raise your hand. Click on that, that will raise your hand, and at the end of the presentation, we will unmute anybody who's got their hand raised. They can ask their question, or you can go to the chat section as well and key in your question, and we will read those at the end. So don't be afraid to ask any questions. Another note, Scanforce is offering a 10% discount on any of their modules to all the attendees of this meeting if you purchase that module by September 30th. Okay? With all that out of the way, I'm going to introduce our presenter, who is Nicole Ronchetti of DSD Business Systems. So Nicole, go ahead.
Thank you, and thanks for having me today. As Brad said, my name is Nicole Ronchetti, and you can hear me okay and see my screen okay? Is that correct, Brad? You can.
I can, yes, sure.
Okay,
yes, I can.
Just wanted to make sure before I got too far along.
Yeah, yep.
So I am Nicole Ronchetti. I'm the Director of Enhancements at DSD Business Systems. Just to give you a little bit of a background, the DSD Scanforce Multi-Bin module was developed by us at DSD and Scanforce together. So I'm going to be presenting, the multi-bin module itself and talk a little bit about, additionally what Scanforce adds to that as well. Just to give you a little bit of a background, here's our agenda for today. So I'll go over DSD Business Systems at a glance. We'll talk about who can benefit from a multi-bin system. And we also have several different options with the multi-bin product. So we'll talk about, which multi-bin system you should choose. We'll also talk a little bit about Scanforce WMS at a glance. And then I'll give a short demonstration on the Multi-Bin Basic and Multi-Bin Advanced solutions, and then we'll open it up to Q&A at the end. So DSD Business Systems, if you're not familiar with our company, we are a Sage 100 Gold Certified Master Developer. So we have over 400 enhancements available for Sage 100. Some of those are smaller enhancements that just might add a small feature or a small process improvement to a current module or task in Sage 100. Other enhancements that we have are entire solutions, entire modules inside of Sage 100. So that could be something like our multi-bin product, which we're going to go over today. We also have our service center and other things that are, larger enhancements like our multi-currency and Instadocs. Those are pretty robust solutions that, add entirely new functionality and modules into your system. Okay. So who can benefit from a multi-bin system? A lot of times people laugh at me when I say any business that carries inventory, but what I typically tell people is that there's always a use for a multi-bin system. There's many different applications for how a multi-bin system can be implemented at a company. So if you have inventory and if you carry inventory, there is a benefit to using something like a multi-bin add-on. Now you might think, you know, I don't have much inventory, I know where everything is, or our counts are always correct, we don't have trouble finding anything. These are a lot of things that I hear people say, and usually that may be coming from maybe someone who works in the office, is not necessarily in the warehouse. I think, you know, in most instances, if you have a fair amount of inventory, you have trouble finding things, you don't know where it is. That's common for just about every business that I've talked to and worked with. Inventory is a very difficult thing for most businesses to keep track of. Keeping things organized, keeping things, you know, counts correct. These are challenges that every business who has inventory faces. Okay, so that's where multi-bin can help. So with multi-bin, you can assign multiple bin locations to items. Okay, you can see where every single item is located within a particular warehouse. Now, some people decide to set up multiple warehouse codes to classify things differently, or, you know, I've seen multiple warehouses used in Sage 100 for a number of different purposes, but ultimately, if you have something like multi-bin, you can keep track of where everything in it is at a more granular level. So even if all of your items are in one particular location, you might have a scenario where you receive items, but then they need to be inspected. You know, a lot of times we see where people will implement multi-bin in order to keep track of, you know, things that are sitting in a quality location. With multi-bin, you can restrict transactions based on locations. So you can set up a quality or an inspection bin location, and you can receive everything into that location, and then you can restrict people from picking from that location. You might have inventory that's segregated for a specific customer. With multi-bin, you can set up bin locations that are customer specific. So only orders for that particular customer can be pulled from that bin location. Okay, so you can segregate inventory and keep track of that inventory, like I said, at a more granular level. You can set up restrictions, and you can also perform quick transfers, which I'll show during the demo, where you can just move the inventory with one click from one location to another without doing an actual posting process. So it's a quick and easy way to move your inventory around and keep those counts up to date. Okay. So with, you know, we do have a couple of different options for multi-bin. We have the Multi-Bin Basic. The Multi-Bin Basic is the chosen Sage solution for a multi-bin product. It is free for Sage 100C users. So if you're current on a Sage 100C subscription plan, you are entitled to the Multi-Bin Basic product at no additional charge. We offer free installation and training videos on our website. It's really quick and easy to get the Multi-Bin Basic installed and set up. And we do provide those, you know, those videos so that you can watch that and go through that entire process. And it's a complete multi-bin solution for inventory, purchase order, sales order, and bill of materials. The only thing with the Multi-Bin Basic that is additional would be work order. Work order is a separate piece. So if you're using the work order module and you choose to utilize the Multi-Bin Basic, you would need to purchase the multi-bin for work order. We will be looking at that in the future when work order gets rewritten, which I believe is set to happen in 2019, if all goes according to schedule. And additionally, too, we have the Multi-Bin Advanced. Now, the biggest difference between Multi-Bin Basic and Multi-Bin Advanced is the Multi-Bin Advanced does what we call auto allocations. So you can set up various different rules for different data entry types so that your allocations happen automatically. So you don't have to pick every time you do a transaction in Sage 100 which bin it's coming from or going to. So it allows you to kind of streamline that same process. the core product of Multi-Bin Basic and Multi-Bin Advanced is exactly the same product. So a lot of times we do see people who will utilize the Multi-Bin Basic and then later on decide that they want to move up to the Advanced. It's just a quick and simple install to unlock those advanced features. And then in addition to that, there's Scanforce WMS. So Scanforce is the only solution that integrates with Multi-Bin for scanning. So Scanforce adds a number of different things, features inside of Sage 100, as well as the ability to do the scanning on handheld so that your people who are on a shop floor or away from a computer can do that from a handheld device. And we'll talk a little bit about that in a little bit more detail. So Scanforce was released to the partner channel in 2006. They have over 700 installations and counting, and over 6,000 users. They were the first to provide a solution that functions in a connected or disconnected environment. So what that means is while they do have the handheld, they don't have to have a continual Wi-Fi connection. So they can, depending on how you set that up, people can be scanning and then push the data to Sage when they do have a connection. They don't have to continually be connected to the network on the handheld in order to get the scanning for picking and for orders and that sort of thing. And that software, that handheld software is native on iOS and Android devices. So it's a direct and seamless communication to Sage 100. Okay. Scanforce, again, offers a wide variety of things that they offer from a handheld standpoint. So they do the shipping, the receiving, inventory transactions, physical count, anything that involves inventory, Scanforce can handle that from the handheld standpoint. They also have a mobile sales add-on as well, which creates quotes, sales orders, invoicing, credit memos. You know, from a handheld device, you can look and see the contacts, open invoices, open sales orders. So that's something that people use, you know, field reps, trade shows, showrooms. I've even seen people use it like kind of in a point of sale sort of environment as well. And Scanforce also does a lot with manufacturing. So from a handheld standpoint, you can do bill of materials production entry. There's work order automation. So things like auto releasing work orders. They also have added functionality for bill of materials that kind of treats bill of materials a little bit more like how work orders are, where you can do a whole picking process and releasing bill of materials. And there's a ton of things that Scanforce adds on the manufacturing side of things. And then they also have label printing. Obviously, when scanning is involved, you need, you know, maybe a lot of your products come in from your vendor already labeled, and that's fine, but you probably would always need a, you know, have a need for printing labels for all of your products so that they can be scanned. So that scanning can happen directly from the scanners within Sage 100, or you can customize your own labels. But that's definitely a must need for people who are interested in doing scanning. Scanforce has several different bundles. They have a fundamentals bundle, which is just shipping, receiving, inventory accounts, and transfers. And then they have an advanced bundle, which adds additional features, you know, for pick and pack, directed picking, dashboards. And then they have a premium bundle, which is just about everything, and then it also includes the Multi-Bin Advanced product for free. So if you purchase, you know, the Scanforce Premium bundle, you get that Multi-Bin Advanced for free. So I'm going to switch it over now to my demo system here. So we'll talk a little bit about Multi-Bin and go over exactly what the differences are between the basic and the advanced, and show you a little bit about how it works. So again, the multi-bin, and I have the multi-bin advanced installed, but you'll be able to see the features of both the basic and the advanced by looking at the advanced version. And you'll notice that once it's installed, it is an entire module here in my Sage 100 system. The biggest key, again, to the difference between multi-bin basic and multi-bin advanced is the auto allocations, like I said before. So if I look at one of my warehouse codes in my multi-bin module, and I look at this allocations tab, this is essentially what multi-bin advanced adds, is all of these different options for doing automatic allocations for the different warehouses and for the different data entry types. So I could set multi-bin up to automatically allocate sales order invoices, but not PO receipts. And I have all different options for the different order in which the auto allocation occurs. And again, I'll show how this auto allocation works when we're inside the data entry task. But the multi-bin basic, this allocations tab is not available. Okay. So if I look at something like, if I go into sales order, I'm just going to go directly into invoice data entry. But with multi-bin, again, you're going to see the need for the allocations at any single data entry task that involves inventory. So if I go and select an invoice and pick an item code here, I'm just going to enter 10. And you'll notice the little exclamation point appears here. If you use lot serial inventory, you've probably seen that exclamation point before, because with lot serial inventory, you would have to do distributions. With multi-bin, it works exactly the same way. Okay, so if I look here, this is going to show me that I need to pick what bin this is coming out of. So I can hit the look up here and I can see which ones I have available and I can choose that. Again, depending on what your process is, this distribution for this order may have happened in sales order entry. You know, with multi-bin advanced, you can have it auto allocate during picking sheet printing as well. So you can have it pull from the bin location, it prints on the picking sheet, and then they go and pick it from that location. In this case, I'm just doing a manual distribution. If I pick another item, I'm going to pick another warehouse code that's set up differently. I'm going to put in 10, and I go to the next line. It did the allocation for me on its own. I entered to the next line, and it's already performed that allocation, saying this is where it needs to come from. That's the key difference between multi-bin basic and multi-bin advanced. Okay, so with multi-bin basic, for each transaction that you do, you would have to come in and pick these different bin locations and say where you're pulling the product from. And in some instances, that's perfectly fine for some people, depending on how many lines you're doing on a transaction, or maybe you want to determine on every transaction exactly where it pulls from. Some people, however, need to do the auto allocation so that the system is just automatically picking based on your business rules. Okay. So how does something like this look when we actually look at inventory? I'm just going to hit accept here and go into my item maintenance for that item. And if I look at this item here, this screen is going to look just like how it normally looks on your Sage 100 system. We're not modifying any of the standard screens at all. That makes it simpler if you have other products already installed, or you have customized screens. We created our own screens so that no rework needs to be done when you install multi-bin. So if I double click down here on my quantity line, I'm just going to do it again. This is going to come up and show me exactly where this item is located in this warehouse. So if I look at warehouse 000, which is the one that I clicked on, I can see all of the different on-hand quantities for every single location. So I have all these different picking locations here, and then I also have a receiving location. Okay, so again, depending on how you decide to set up your multi-bin and how you decide to utilize those different locations. You know, in this instance, I received on a purchase order, and I wanted to get those items into inventory right away, but they weren't ready to be put away yet. They were just still sitting on the receiving dock. So he entered the receiving, posted it, and those 10 went to the receiving. You know, so when you have your warehouse personnel going around looking for something, and they check all the picking locations, or you know, a picking location and doesn't match what's on inventory, they can come into the item maintenance and they can see, oh, well, I still have 10, you know, they still have 10 sitting on the receiving dock. And again, you know, depending on how you decide to utilize that, you know, you could set up that bin location, that receiving bin location, to disallow sales orders from being picked from that location. You know, so it hasn't, you know, it's been received, so it's in inventory. That got done right away. You didn't have to wait for, you know, it to be checked or for quality control to be done, you know. But we don't want people picking that yet because it hasn't moved over to the proper location. So again, you could set up the bin location with specific restrictions in order to prevent people from picking from that location. So, and I've drilled into this bin location maintenance directly from my item bin maintenance, which I got to from item maintenance. When I look at this bin location maintenance, I can look at different, you know, every single item that's sitting in that receiving location. So even though I got to it from going to the item code maintenance, I can still drill down into that bin location and see everything that's sitting in there. Okay. And again, you know, talking about the quick transfers, which I had mentioned before, we've added these transfer buttons to a lot of different areas of our multi-bin screens. So if I'm looking at this particular item here and I click on the receiving, and let's say they've decided, okay, we're going to move this to another location, I can click on the transfer button, select another bin location, put in the quantity I want to transfer, and say okay, and it's automatically moved that for me. No posting, nothing else. I can see here that there's no longer any in receiving, and those have moved to this location. If I'm at the bin location level, let me drill into this bin location. I have a couple different options for doing a transfer. I still have that little transfer button over to the right like I did in the previous screen. So I could select an individual item and transfer that just like I did in the previous screen. Or I can click on transfer up here and I can transfer the entire contents of that bin location to another bin. So every single item that's in receiving will move to wherever I choose to move it to. So those have all moved. Now when I go back and I look at my bin, I no longer have anything sitting in receiving. Okay. Let's go back here. And again, there's a lot of different options with multi-bin as far as you know, how you decide to set some of this up and where the different transactions, how those are treated and what the different allocation rules are. Again, if I look at this quantity screen here, I can see the 2,447 on hand in this bin location. If I scroll over to the right, I can see that there's 14 that are allocated on sales orders right now, and I currently only have 2,433 available. Okay, so any of the allocations, any of the transactions, you know, right now with Sage 100, you pretty much just see, here's what I have on hand, here's what I have on sales orders, and your available is kind of this, it's not really a true number because you don't have any visibility on your available as far as what's actually been picked, what's not been picked, what can be moved. You know, multi-bin gives you that added layer of visibility to see exactly what has been allocated on sales orders. Okay. And if I look at my allocations tab, it's going to tell me every document that has those allocations and where those numbers are coming from. Okay. So again, if I look at something like a receipt of goods, go to purchase order, receipt of goods. I'm going to create a new receipt. This. I'm going to pick that same item. I'm going to say 10. Again, my auto allocation occurred for me because I have that enabled for this warehouse code. I didn't have to allocate anything for this item, but if I go and I look here, I have my multi-bin set up to have everything automatically go to a receiving staging location. Okay, so I don't have to do any extra steps because I have that, that auto allocation turned on. If I were to put in another item or for a different warehouse that didn't have the auto allocations, or if I was using multi-bin multi-bin basic, I would have to come into this distribution screen and perform the allocation manually. Now, some people oftentimes ask, if I do have auto allocations turned on, what if I don't want to use that allocation that it performed for me? You can go into the bin location distribution screen, and I can delete that and choose any bin location that I want to allocate that to. So you can perform that on your own. And then we also have additional options too, where you could also set this up with a prompt method. So when I entered in the quantity, it would say, do you want to auto allocate, yes or no? You can set it up that way. There's a number of different ways that you can set that up. Now, with something like a lot serial item, you'll notice that this screen is a little bit different. So it's going to automatically put this to receiving for me, again, because of my auto allocation rules. But with an inbound transaction for a lot serial item, I still would need to enter in the lot serial number that I'm receiving. Okay. And that this lot serial bin distribution is going to look the exact same way on the sales order side of things and on the invoicing on our outbound transaction. But with outbound transactions, you can enable that to automatically allocate a lot serial number based on specific rules. And that could be either in a date order or just in order by the lot serial number, like an ascending lot serial number. So you can set that up to automatically say, pick the oldest serial number, pick the oldest lot first. So you have all of those features as well when it comes to lot serial. But it's nice to have all of this in one screen too, so that you don't have a separate task. This is pretty much your standard distribution screen that you see everywhere else in Sage 100 with that bin location field added in here. And you can also set up multi-bin to say, I always want to allocate based on the lot serial number first or based on the bin location first. So you can change that distribution order. So that comes into play based on, what are the people in the warehouse doing? Are they picking based on the bin location, or are they picking based on the lot serial number? So if I were to select this based on lot serial first, I could do a lookup here and see all the different lot serial numbers and what bin location they're in and choose that, right? Whereas if I was saying by bin location first, I could say, okay, I'm going to go to this, select the bin, and then see what lot serial numbers are available in that bin. Okay. So it's very flexible, but it's also very simple and easy to learn because it's so tightly integrated with the existing Sage 100 programming. It's not learning an entire new software. It's so simple and easy to set up and learn. If I go back again and just kind of look at some of our different options for those bin locations. If I look here, we do have the ability with multi-bin. I don't have it set up on this system, but if you notice where it says segment and setting and sort, essentially you can set up your multi-bin to kind of work similar to how actually general ledger accounts work. You can set up different segments, which would be, you know, in this case, something like, you know, all of my bin locations are going to be a 1 and then a dash and then 3 characters and then 2 characters. You could set up multi-bin that way. So you knew, you know, my aisles are all A through Z, and then my racks are all 100 through 900. So you could set up different segments to auto-generate bin locations, create those bin location codes, you know, by using a utility in the system based on those different segments. You can also set up location types, which I don't have any location types in here right now. But location types are really just kind of like a classification for, you know, different bin locations that you have. So you could set up, you know, an overstock location type, a picking location type, any different location types that you want to. And you could set up those location types with specific settings so that when you set up a new bin location with that location type, it inherits those settings from the location type that was set up. You can set up various different min and max quantities. Again, we have all the different restrictions. So going back to something I said previously, you know, you can set up, you know, let's say you sell to Walmart and you need to keep specific inventory on hand for Walmart or for Amazon. You could set up customer specific bin locations. So if I picked a particular customer, then the only orders for that customer can come out of that bin location. So I wouldn't be able to pull for, you know, a totally different customer from that bin location. So it's a really nice way to be able to, you know, segregate inventory for specific customers. Then we also have item restrictions. So you can say, we have item specific. So you could say that only a certain item can go into that bin location. We also have product line specific. Product line specific would be, let's say I had a parts product line. So you could assign a specific product line to that, and then only items matching that product line can go into that bin location. And then we also have same item and same product line. I already have stuff in there. So what same item and same product line do is basically any item can go into that bin location at the first receipt of anything into that bin location. From that point on, it's basically not allowing mixed SKUs in a bin location. So that's what same item is going to do. As soon as you put something into that bin location, only that item can continue to go into that bin location. And then we also have same product line. So again, you're not assigning a specific item or a specific product line to the bin, but as soon as something goes into that bin location, the subsequent transactions have to follow that same rule. Okay. And again, you know, we're going to have some standard screens in here like transactions. This is going to be really similar to the transactions screen that you would see in inventory. I'm just going to change this to all here. And you'll notice there's a couple of transaction types here that are a little bit different. The QT is, again, doing those quick transfers in our bin location maintenance and in our item bin maintenance. So we're keeping track of those. Those are not creating actual inventory transactions. In inventory, it's just moving in the bins, but we're keeping record of all of those bin transactions and quick transfers within here. And then you'll also see this BB, beginning transaction. That's when we first set up multi-bin. It wrote that beginning balance transaction when it moved everything into the bin locations. So, and to that point, you know, when you first install and set up multi-bin, it's going to ask you, you know, how do you want to treat your current on-hand information? So at that point, you can choose to either use existing bin locations that you have in the system. That would be the standard Sage bin location field in inventory. If you choose to go that route, it'll automatically set up all of those bin locations based on your standard inventory files, and it'll move that inventory into those bin locations for you automatically. The other option that a lot of people decide to do, because usually I always kind of advise that, you know, if you're going to be implementing something like multi-bin, that may be a good time to do a physical count at the same time too. So sometimes what people do when they turn on multi-bin for the first time, they just move everything into one default bin location, and then they do a physical count and then utilize a physical count entry in order to move things to the proper location so that they know where everything is. So there's a couple of different options for how you can first get that bin location information populated. And sometimes too, you know, we do fully work with the visual integrator module. So sometimes people utilize the visual integrator module in order to, you know, create bin locations and update quantities and do transactions when they're first implementing it. But I've seen some people, like I said too, some people just create a default bin location, and as they move things, they're moving it to the right location until that default bin location or initial bin location is fully depleted. Okay. So again, you know, in something like transaction entry, you can still do transfers in transaction entry. The biggest change though with multi-bin is something that you cannot do in standard Sage 100 is have your transfer from and transfer to warehouse be exactly the same. We did add that ability in Sage 100 to allow you to do that, so that if you want to enter in a transfer and transfer from one bin location to another, you can make the transfer from and transfer to warehouse the exact same warehouse. You know, you can do transfers from multi-bin enabled warehouses to non-multi-bin enabled warehouses and back and forth. If I'm just doing a transfer here, both of these warehouses are multi-bin enabled. So it's going to ask me, you know, my bin location here that I'm coming from. And then it's going to ask me for a to bin location. Okay, so this is in the from warehouse, this is in the to warehouse. So this will look a little bit different, you know, than some of the other distribution screens. But you do have that ability in transaction entry and transfers. Again, everywhere where there's any sort of movement of inventory, you're going to see that added bin location field. The other thing also, bill of materials. For anyone who's using bill of materials, a huge, well, I don't have bill of materials enabled. A huge thing that that multi-bin adds with the bill of materials module is, especially if you're using lot serial, we add a header distribution. So when you're doing a production entry, let's see if I actually have it enabled here. My data files have not been converted. I'm just going to convert that quick. We add that header distribution. So if you have multiple serial numbers or multiple lot numbers that you're making in a production entry, you can use, with multi-bin, you can create multiple distributions on the header of the bill of materials production entry, which is something that you cannot do in standard Sage 100. Standard Sage 100 only allows you to pick one lot number or one starting serial number. They don't allow you to do a distribution. So if I look here on a production entry, I can click on distribute here, and you'll notice that we add this header distribution. So you can have multiple bin locations, multiple serial numbers, and again, those can be multiple unique serial numbers. They do not have to be sequential. So it allows you to do all that distribution on the header of a production entry. So it's very similar to like what you would see in the lines, but you have that available on the header as well. So that's pretty much it. I didn't see if there was any questions that came in. Do we want to open it up to questions?
Yep, we can do that. I've got a couple questions that have come in. One is what versions of Sage 100 are you compatible with, or i.e., I guess how far back does it go? Probably is a better question as well. So we'll kind of both.
Sure.
Both.
So for Multi-Bin Basic, because Multi-Bin Basic is only available for 100C, that started with version 5.4 and higher, because before 5.4, there was no 100C version of Sage 100. Multi-Bin Advanced, we go back to 5.1 and higher. And that would be the same for the work order too. We go back to 5.1.
Okay. So then I guess to clarify as well, then the Multi-Bin Basic, then it sounds like you do have to be on 100C for the basic. Is that correct?
That's correct. You know, and a lot of times too, people aren't still even really sure, you know, if they're on the 100C or if they're not on 100C. The easiest way to tell on your Sage 100 is to go to Help and About and look to see if it says 100C in your Help and About. That's actually what our software is looking at, is this same information here. So if you're on the 100C, you can install that Multi-Bin Basic, and there's no unlocking, there's no registration, it simply looks at your system to see if you're on 100C, and it automatically unlocks that.
Okay. Anybody else out there have any questions? Again, if you do, on your GoToWebinar control panel, there should be a way for you to either click on the box to raise your hand, in which case we can unmute you and you can ask your question, or you can type a question in the chat section. Send it to everybody if you like, or to the organizer, and we should get that question there and be able to answer that either way. So wait about a minute here or so to see if anybody does raise their hand again, or anything pops up in the chat. I'm not seeing anything just yet, but like I said, we'll give it another 30 seconds here or so. So don't be shy. If you have any questions, now is the time to ask. And while I'm waiting here, I will just kind of reiterate what I said at the beginning. I know that there is a promotion going on right now for the Scanforce modules, 10% between now and September 30th. Let me make sure I get that correct. That is September 30th. And Nicole, do you have a list of what those modules are? Is that what I see you moving on your screen? Is that part of what you'd shown in the beginning? I know you had some.
Yeah, I mean, we did talk a little bit about, you know, that would be for the Multi-Bin Advanced. And then any of the additional Scanforce modules. You know, Scanforce does have a wide array of different enhancements and add-ons that they offer. So I would say that if anyone is interested in, you know, possibly, you know, taking advantage of that, you would likely want to have a personalized demo or a discovery call, you know, so to, you know, if any of the attendees are interested in that, you know, to reach out to DWD, and they'll coordinate with us in Scanforce to, you know, have the appropriate people, you know, give a more personalized, you know, demo and talk about what some of your inventory challenges might be, to see which solutions would be a good fit.
Okay. I'm going to make one last look here. I'm going through my attendees. I do not see any hands raised. I'm going to check my chat again. No questions there, and nothing in the questions section either. So, all right. Well, let me again thank everybody for attending today's webinar. Hopefully you were able to learn a little bit about the offerings that we have on the multi-bin and some of the options as well in the Scanforce. I know that this presentation has been recorded, and I believe all of you who have attended will be getting a copy of this presentation along with some contact information. As Nicole has said, if you do decide that this is something you're interested in, you can get a hold of us at DWD. And as Nicole said, we will set up a meeting to call for half hour, 45 minutes, hour to understand again, as Nicole said, what your challenges are, what you're trying to accomplish, make a decision as to what, if any of these particular modules solutions might help, and then a more personalized look at that. Okay, so again, thanks everyone for attending. I'm making one last opportunity here, and I see nothing. So again, thanks everyone for attending. We appreciate you taking your time, and I'm going to end the meeting now. Thanks everyone. Have a good afternoon.
Have a good afternoon.
Thanks.